for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 the millions around the world, on the iHeart Radio application. Today, National Signing Day, February 2nd. 2022, Groundhog Day, so to speak, a little reset from the early signing period where the Tigers have just 12 in Dabo Swinney's second ever Dandy Dozen. Well, today they have added 7 players into the mix, potentially looking at number 8 coming up in just a little bit. And we will keep you updated on all of that. At 7:28 in the morning, it got rolling. Kobe Mcleod, the linebacker and brother of former Clemson Tiger wide receiver Ray Mcleod, got his fax machine rolling out of Gaither High School down in Tampa, Florida, and sent it in at 7:28. Clemson brings in their 13th member officially of the 2022 recruiting class. Great story from Dabo Swinney on Kobe Mcleod. What happened was Kobe's father, Big Ray McLeod's dad, wanted an evaluation of his son put together. He had already previously committed to, I believe it was Florida International, but recruitment was picking up. And so being the brother of a former Clemson player, being the brother of current Arizona quarterback Jordan Mcleod, I mean, this is a kid who many people thought would go on and play collegiately, but maybe his stock was a little low. Maybe he should have been evaluated a little bit better. And so Dabo Swinney passed it on to Brent Venables. Venables put together the tape, thought he really liked him. Ultimately, after Ray Mcleod had a big game in the NFL, Swinney texted his dad and said, hey, man, great job with Ray's game. Thought he was amazing. Ended up texting Ray as well and ultimately asked, where's brother signed? And he said, hey, he's not. And so that's how these pieces sort of came together. We'll hear some from Dabo Swinney coming up in just a little bit. But ultimately, Clemson gets Mcleod and now an additional linebacker in the class. At 7:49, some 21 minutes later, Miles Oliver out of Villa Rica, Georgia, Douglas County High School, a speedy defensive back, ends up signing with Clemson, a guy that plays or runs track and is an incredible athlete. Joining Clemson's group. And, Dabo Swinney talked about his speed and what he brings to the table from that standpoint, but absolutely a good athlete there in the 3-star cornerback prospect out of the state of Georgia. At 8:05, local time, it was a local signature. Jahim Lawson, the brother of Shaq Lawson, defensive end out of Central over at D.W. Daniel High School, will enter the fold. Swinney talked about the fact that Jahim and his son Clay have been good buddies for many, many years. And Jahim was dominant this season on the gridiron, still could use some weight, some additional weight added as it pertains to his physique, but a hard worker who Dabo Swinney said, hey, is further along just in terms of his development than Shaq Lawson was when he got to Tiger Town, because he's been around his brother. He's been around a guy who's played the game at the highest level. At 8:46, another sibling, Cole Turner, wide receiver out of Estiva Hills High School in Alabama. I'll save this story for you. Again, he is Nolan Turner's brother. Obviously, Dabo Swinney has a very unique relationship with the Turner family, going back to his late father's Kevin's days with Dabo Swinney. But the reason that nobody knew of Cole Turner, according to Coach Swinney, was because Vestiva Hills High School for many years, 50 years, I think Sweeney said they ran the triple option. And this past year, they got a new head coach, changed the offense. Cole Turner sort of burst on the scene, and Sweeney and Clemson scoop in for the 3-star wide receiver. 8 minutes later, Kalon Griffin, the safety out of Montgomery, Alabama, sent in his official commitment, his signature to the Clemson Tigers. He is a 3-time All-Capital City Conference selection at defensive back and a 2-time All-Metro player. Again, a safety, a 3-star safety out of the state of Alabama. Other offers included Southern Cal and Nebraska, along with an initial commitment to Mississippi State. At 9:20, not a sibling, but a son. Keith Adams Jr., the running back out of St. George, Utah, Pineview High School, ends up signing with the Clemson Tigers. I know that a lot of people had hoped that Clemson would be able to reel in 3-star Texas running back Andrew Paul. Instead, Paul commits to Georgia over the Tigers and Michigan. But adding a kid like Keith Adams Jr., Dabo Swinney said, listen, he understands that the guys in front of him, the three-headed, the triumvirate, the three-headed monster, if you will, are there. And that it's not going to be a come in and play immediately type situation. So for the young man whose father and grandfather both played in the NFL, he'll come to Clemson. He'll be a backup. He'll get a year to mature. He'll get a redshirt season under his belt and potentially be able to contribute to the Tigers on down the road. And finally, outside of one more additional name that could be coming in shortly, Clemson did land Caden Story, the story of the day, the 4-star defensive tackle out of Lynette High School in Lynette, Alabama, the former Auburn commit at 10:42 in the morning, commits to the Clemson Tigers. And lest we forget that there is still TJ Dudley out there for the Tigers here in just a little bit. All that being said, let's hear Caden Story's commitment.
To me, I finally found my home away from home. For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be attending Clemson University.
So there you have it. Caden Story commits to the Clemson Tigers, 6'3", 282-pounder. He's not going to be a guy that's going to need to fit this year. Honestly, with the depth Clemson's got, he might not even be a guy that necessarily has to fit next year. But what I think is fair to say is that at this point, the Clemson Tigers have a great young man coming into the program, a versatile athlete, according to Dabo Swinney. We'll hear a lot from Dabo Swinney on today's program, plus Clemson University Athletic Director Graham Neff. He also spoke with the media earlier today. 803-450-0086, text line and phone line. Again, you can be a part of the program anytime, any place, anywhere, and we always appreciate each and every one of you hanging out with us. But first, without further ado, Dabo Swinney's opening comments after Clemson's National Signing Day event.
Well, been a great day for us. This has been a little more action for us today than maybe we've had the last few years. Certainly signed half our class in December and the rest today. But it's been a fun day, celebrating another really good group for us. We signed 12 guys in December. As you know, 9 of those guys are mid-years. They're off to a great start. Really been enjoyed, and it's been fun to just kind of see them get acclimated and with their transition in all areas of the program and school and all that stuff, and really seem to be doing very well. Today, we're gonna, we still got, I think we got a decision being made at 4:30, so we got one more out there, but plan to sign 8 to 9 more today, and so should put our class in that 20 to 21 range, which really is just what we needed, to address our needs. Also going to add 11 really, really good walk-on players that I think all have the potential to help us and contribute to our team. But as always, time will tell. But I do believe this group will be another special group that will help us continue to be a great program on and off the field and everything that we do. And help us to continue to be consistent in everything that we do. But, every year when we go recruit We always have specific needs and objectives, and it's always a process, and there's lots of twists and turns as you go through the recruiting process every single year, always has been. But man, we get the guys we're supposed to get, and thankful for that. But the objective is to add talent and depth to your roster. It's always, critical to fill the specific needs that you have, and I think this class has been able to do that. And we've done it with a group of really great young people that I think just happen to be good football players, and man, a lot of great families. That's the other thing that never really gets talked about a lot, because when you're recruiting these kids, it's not just the kid that's coming into your program. The families are coming with them. And we got a lot of great families that are joining the Clemson family, and we're excited about that.
So some of Dabo Swinney from just a little bit ago up in Tigertown as Clemson again expands their recruiting class, still waiting, as he mentioned and as I brought up, waiting on the official announcement of TJ Dudley. So we'll update you on that if Dudley does decide to join the Clemson Tiger program. But Swinney gave a rundown of what the class looked like before updating everybody on some of these players.
We signed, 2 quarterbacks, running back, 2 offensive linemen, a tight end, 3 receivers, 2 defensive linemen. It'll be 2 to 3 linebackers, depending on what happens today. A couple of safeties, 3 corners, a kicker, and a punter. So we really kind of touched all the bases that we needed to touch in this class for sure. 9 offensive guys, 2 specialists, and then it'll be either 9 or 10 defensive guys when the day comes to an end. But again, thankful for all the young men. It's always a blessing when you got, the type of guys that we recruit who all have different opportunities, and I appreciate their families, but especially our staff as well. I mean, there was a lot of hard work that went into, this class, especially when you have the amount of transition that we have this year, but they did an amazing job.
And, that may ultimately be the story of this class, especially now with Caden Story, ironically, coming into the mix and the numbers that they picked up. Like when you leave that early signing period now, and I don't know how much this will change. Dabo Swinney actually spoke about this a little bit, but, I think there are going to be schools out there that are going to land a lot of guys in that opening period, and there are going to be some others that may not. But can you clean up and bring in players that you think fit your program and your culture and that can have an impact at some point down the line? It would appear at this point that's how Dabo Swinney and this staff are viewing this group of players that they're bringing in today. It's the add-on to what you already had, and even though you had some smaller numbers previously, you had very good rankings, and now what you're doing is just kind of filling some gaps with players that you believe are talented enough and maybe even undervalued. And I cannot at this point give you any reason to question how Dabo Swinney and the staff value players because of the job that they've done with players who are traditionally and have been undervalued. Now, one of the things Dabo Swinney was also asked about was Hunter Johnson and his return to Tigertown. Here's what Coach Swinney had to say on that front.
I mean, as I said this morning, just kind of God's favor. It's all I can say. That's the only way I can describe it. He called me. He wants to coach, and so he's done it at Northwestern and got his master's and all that stuff, and he's just wanting to come to Clemson and get his MBA, and wanting to know if he could help coach, help be a student intern or student helper while he's getting his MBA. And of course, I'm like, heck yeah, man. I mean, are you kidding me? This would be awesome. He's so excited. I mean, he loves Clemson. We've always stayed in touch. He loves Clemson, and his girlfriend was here as well. And but he's so it was just kind of a conversation. I just literally just kind of was kidding with him. I was like, hey, you better watch out. We might have to pull a Zeb Nolan and throw you in the game, put the student coach in the, I just kind of made a joke. And he said, well, actually I do have another year. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how in the world could you have another year? And literally that was my answer. And he said, well, I got my COVID year. And I started thinking, I was like, holy cow. I mean, that is crazy. So that's kind of how we got to that point. And so it worked out. I mean, he's excited about it. He really I mean, he's very mature. He's got a great perspective. I mean, heck, he may lead us to a national championship. I have no idea, but he's coming in here to be a servant leader. He's coming in here to bring a veteran, experienced mentality and give us some experience depth that we don't have. We've got one guy that's played. So here's a guy that's played 5 years of college football. He's been through a lot, adversities, surgery. He's had all kind of stuff that he's dealt with, but he's just an awesome young man. He's very mature, and he'll work as hard as anybody. He'll be as prepared as anybody. And so it just brings it's not rare. It's very rare you're going to find somebody that will come in here with that type of mindset. And so it's exciting. I think he's going to be great for DJ and for Cade, and from a leadership standpoint. And so that's kind of how it all came about. And then it allowed us to pay for his MBA.
So what an incredible add-on, addition, story, whatever you want to call it, from Clemson as it pertains to Hunter Johnson being a part of the program. 803-450-0086, text line, phone line. Again, you can be a part of the program as well, anytime, any place, anywhere. Before we get to the first break, though, we'll hear a little bit more from Dabo Swinney as he was asked about his favorite topic, NIL, and how that's kind of gone up at Clemson.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it helped us. I mean, we're never going to recruit leading with NIL. That's an opportunity. We certainly have the opportunity to help anybody that wants to participate and use their name, image, likeness, however they want to. But, we always lead with who we are as a program, the purpose of this program. And, I don't think many people are going to come here, or at least I hope they don't, because of the NIL. I hope they come here because this is the university they want to be a part of, the program they want to be a part of, the people they want to be a part of. And so, it really wasn't a factor either way. I think we've got a huge team in place here. I mean, we're probably one of the few places that is actually building a facility. In fact, you're going to see the construction start, I guess, probably next week on our new facility that's going outside the weight room here. And so we're going to have just like we built Paul Journey, a living, breathing space. We're going to have a living, breathing space for, to help our players navigate, this landscape that's out there. Because at the end of the day, that's our responsibility. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. The rules are the rules. And our job is to make sure we equip them and we help them navigate any opportunities, maximize this opportunity. And that's what we've been doing. That's what we're trying to do moving forward. And we've got a team right now is what we have set up. We've got a really good team of people that are, we have somebody designated from the university standpoint for the whole athletic department. And then we have a little team that's dedicated to that as well. And a great, when we do visits and things like that and kids come in here, that's a part of our process, but it's nowhere near, like we're not coming out of the door. Oh, hey, here you go. Like, that's just one of the things we cover, just like the training room, just like the strength and conditioning, just like nutrition, just like dining, just like the business school, whatever it is. So we've got a great presentation and a great approach to that. It's been really good for us. And again, our responsibility is to help them maximize it. And at the end of the day, 98% of these guys aren't going to play pro sports. So they have a short window. We need to help them maximize, whatever opportunity they have.
So there you go, Dabo Swinney talking about the NIL stuff. And I will say, we had our compliance training at iHeart the other day. And for years, that compliance training pretty much, if I remember, existed, solely about the FCC, the Federal Communications, whatever. Should I know what that stands for? The federal, but this year it was like the federal trade, the FTC stuff we had to do. So I wonder about their social media accounts and tweeting out things about go eat this, go do that. And do they have to follow those things? And so it's more than just what kind of deals you get. It's what you do with those deals. And are you following, the proper guidelines, et cetera. We'll hit a quick break. We'll hear more from Dabo Swinney next. Rocking and rolling along with you. National Signing Day. We'll hear more from Dabo Swinney coming up in just a little bit about the players in this class, but he was asked about NIL before the break, and one of the other questions he was also asked about is, his concerns about NIL and its impact on recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime I think there's a lot of good intentions with the NIL. But I think anytime you do something, there's always unintended consequences. And there will be some unintended consequences. And I think, the way it's being used in some areas right now is not what it was intended for. But again, I think everybody's figuring it out. It'll all settle out. And I do think that there are some pitfalls that as adults and as teachers, we got to do a great job with the young people that we've been entrusted with to help them. Because I can see a lot of young people making decisions for the wrong reasons and maybe getting distracted again by short-term money, because it's very short-term, and sacrifice the long-term. So I think there's a balance there, and that's where I think everybody has a responsibility to help them.
And that, I think, is probably the biggest deal when it comes down to NIL for me and probably you. And I think we all fear that one day we'll be the stay off my lawn guy. But, when you don't have any real setup on how it's going to work, when it's sort of this unknown, it becomes the wild, wild west. And those consequences that Dabo Swinney talked about are the exact type of thing that I think people like me and you, reasonable, logical human beings, think about and go, is that in the best interest of the student athlete if we just jump them right into it? And I don't know if there was a way to sort of gradually bring NIL in. I don't know if there was a better way to do it than to just, rip the Band-Aid off and see what happens. But I think that is something that a lot of people have actually wondered about. Like, is there a better way that this could have been done? Not so that the players make less or even that they make more, that they understand everything that comes along with that type of add-on to what they're doing, that type of supplement to what they're doing. And, I've often wondered, was DJ Uiagalelei affected by it? I've often wondered if Spencer Rattler was affected by it, because when these guys were introduced to that, to that being a part of the college experience or their college experience, they were already on campus, and there wasn't. It was kind of like you were building the road as you're driving the car, and let's see what happens next. And so I feel for those guys in some respects. I mean, I really do. I know a lot of people, want to be so disappointed in DJ. And look, there's no doubt he did not perform up to the standard that he probably had for himself, or that you did. And was any of his poor play affected by NIL? Who knows? But I think that is one of the things that all of us should be willing to be more aware of and focus on, is how is NIL going to work moving forward, and how can we best set up these players for success? Whether you think players should be paid or not, this is, again, a different vibe. They are paid for their likeness. They are not paid to play football. And so that's one of the things that I've kind of resigned myself to not being overly upset about. What I think would be upset about is the complaints that players don't get anything. Like, that was the argument, right? For so many years. Well, players don't get anything. Let me pose a counter offer or counter question to you, Your Honor. What about the players now that aren't getting any NIL, that can't even get, a free deli sandwich at Publix for tweeting it out? Like, what about those players? What are they really getting? So how has it really changed for the majority of players? It truly hasn't. I mean, a lot of guys, it hasn't changed all that much. And so did we solve the problem in the mind's eye of those people that want to raise their voice to the masses and say, players don't get enough? I've always thought players got plenty. Swag, gear, food, tutoring, whatever they wanted. Bowl, TVs, Xboxes, all that from the bowls, plenty of shoes. I mean, things that you would have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on, these players have gotten for years. And again, I don't need to see the whole system completely revamped, but what we've done now is just revamped it to fix it for the top couple of guys. I mean, let me ask you this. Honestly, if the scenario was, well, look, and they already had cost of attendance, we're going to make a level cost of attendance across the country, $10,000 a year for every player, something like that. Is that fixing the problem more than NIL? I mean, if that is truly what you believe the problem is that players don't get enough, would giving every player the same amount from coast to coast answer that problem without having a situation where you might have a DJ Uyunglele or a Spencer Rattler or some other big name, feeling stress or things that they didn't expect to have coming into college because now they've got some extra coin in their pocket and they're worried about maybe being able to renew that contract next year? I don't know. I think it's worth asking. By the way, it's also worth asking, Swanee, why didn't you update us on the Caleb Williams, former Oklahoma quarterback story yesterday? My bad. I sort of filled in the blanks anyway when I said that one Oklahoma quarterback went to USC, South Carolina, and the other one went to, I guess, USC, Southern California. So Caleb Williams does what I feared he would do, maybe not for him, but for the sport. He followed his former head coach, Lincoln Riley, out to Southern Cal, which means with the way the rules currently work, he doesn't have to sit out. And listen, if you're all freedom of the players, the freedom of this, and you don't mind if they go and move and they shouldn't have to sit out, shouldn't there at least be some kind of add-on that if you transfer to the school your ex-head coach went to, you should have to sit out a year? Like, would that be so harsh? I mean, what's to stop a program? What's to stop Dabo Swinney from packing up everybody in Tiger Town and going to some other school at some point? Nothing. And that, I think, is the problem. Even with scholarship limits, it's still not a good look at this point, the way it's set up for players to move freely. Stay with us. A beautiful Wednesday afternoon, Clemson Sports Talk. We're on Twitter at Clemson Sports. Do you follow us yet? You should. 23,500 of you nearly. Still pushing forward towards 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We really want to crush that this year. I can't wait to get the live videos going again. I mean, that will excite me. Trust me. Dabo Swinney, we heard from him earlier today on the program. We'll hear some more. Again, it's National Signing Day. Clemson with quite the recruiting additions here on the back end. Notable names, obviously the biggest Caden Story at this point, with a looming commitment coming shortly from TJ Dudley. But I digress. To the question or the lecture at hand, Dabo Swinney talking about some of those guys who are now part of the program who are siblings of players who had played there, like Jahim Lawson, the brother of Shaq Lawson, Cole Turner, the brother of Nolan Turner, Kobe Mcleod. I almost said Kobe Ray. Kobe Mcleod, whose brother Ray played at Clemson as well. Here's Dabo Swinney talking about those relationships and the willingness to bring in the siblings of some former Tigers.
You talking about Cole and Kobe? Yeah, Cole's, I mean, yeah, and Jahim, yeah, Cole's just, I mean, it's just amazing, kind of, to be honest with you, how that all came about. All I can tell you is just kind of a God thing, because that's exactly how it happened for Nolan, because we weren't recruiting Nolan. And y'all remember after that national championship game in 2015, and, Travis and McKenzie and J. Ron and TJ Green left, and I have to assume they're coming back, because if you don't assume they're coming back and you go recruit people, then and then they come back, now you got to tell somebody they got to go or they can't come. And we don't operate that way here. So, all of a sudden you got to go recruit. And y'all remember the story of Nolan. I mean, I'd offered him a walk-on spot a long time ago. And next thing you know, we're scrambling. And we went and got Isaiah. We went and got Trayvon. We got Kayvon. And then we got Nolan. And I just said, man, I'm going to go back and watch his tape. And when I watched his tape, I was like, let me get an unbiased opinion here. And I took it down to Brent. And Brent was like, who the heck is this guy? Where's he at? You know, and it was kind of his exact reaction. I'm like, that's all I need to know. And the rest is history. It was only offer. And this kid's getting ready to go to the NFL. I mean, he's been a great player for us, a great leader. He'll be a D coordinator one day. He wants to coach when he's done playing. And then Cole, he was a basketball player. I've known Cole forever, but he was a basketball player, literally. And he didn't play football. And then all of a sudden, his junior year, I guess they talked him into coming out and playing football. And he's playing at Vestavia. And at that point, they'd been running that dang option forever, for 50 years. And so he was just kind of a wing guy, just a good athlete. So not on anybody's radar. And then they had a new coach come in this year and went to the spread. It was actually Kevin Swint's coach from Carrollton. And they went to the spread. And next thing you know, I mean, I'm getting a text from Raymond, his granddaddy, saying, hey, you might want to watch this kid. And I mean, I started watching him, and I actually talked to him back in November. And I said, hey, I'm just going to we'll try to keep you under the radar here for a little while if I can, because I knew if people watched his tape, he was going to get a lot of opportunity. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, he had he had a lot of people, you know, from Notre Dame to other schools reaching out to him as his name got out there and people started watching him. But he's a faster, bigger athlete than Nolan. And Nolan kills him when he hears me say that. But he's twitchy. He's long. He's got great ball skills. He's a big-time athlete. He's a big-time basketball player. I mean, this kid, they got a good chance to win the state up there. He's played at the highest level in Alabama. And was dominant. And again, this was his first year to play receiver and just blew it up. A great punt returner, great kick returner, got thrown just like Nolan, throw his butt in the weight room for a year. But I think he's got high end potential. So just a very, very fortunate to get a guy like that. And then Kobe, obviously we've known the Mcleods forever. I've known Kobe forever. And same thing, you know, just kind of chance that it all worked out the way it did. Kobe, Big Ray reached out to me, and I don't know, maybe early November, I guess, because we were kind of locked in. We had guys committed, and we were kind of done, and we had two other offers out there, a kid in Florida and a kid in Alabama, and we're just going to take one more guy, and we felt good about where we were, but he wanted to get just a true evaluation of Kobe. So, you know, I told Brent, I said, hey, give me a good evaluation on what you think, because I want to try to give him some good direction here on because he'd committed early and his recruiting had picked up and he was trying to figure out which way to go. And so Big Ray wanted to give him the right advice. So I sent it to Brent. Brent wrote up a great, you know, eval on him and really liked him a lot. And that, you know, if we didn't get one of those guys, that he's like, this guy can play. And so anyway, forgot about it, sent it on about our business. And then, you know, we have signing day and we do our thing. And next thing you know, I'm watching the Steelers game and Ray had a big game. I just happened to text Ray and Ray, and they both hit me back. But Ray hit me back. And I said, hey, where'd Kobe end up signing? Conversation. And he said, well, he actually decided not to sign because they just had a lot of things come their way and they didn't really know what they wanted to do. So they were going to take January to kind of figure it out. And that was the story on a lot. It's going to be more and more the story, to be honest with you, because there's not many high school kids getting recruited. There's a lot. In fact, a couple of years ago, a lot of these guys that we just signed, they wouldn't be here to sign. So, you know, it's good and bad. It's good that there's a bigger pool of high school kids to recruit, but it's bad because you got a lot of high school kids that are not getting the opportunities that they got a couple years ago.
Dabo Swinney there certainly addressing some of the issues that the transfer portal has created. And it's something I think that he is keenly aware of, and I'm sure many other coaches are, is that the portal has become basically the recruiting haven of choice because you're getting guys that are more experienced. You're getting guys that are better prepared to play, and you've got this free ranging, you know, ability for these guys to leave programs. So at any time, a player can step in and fill a role. And I don't think Clemson is designed or desires to build their program that way. But because many programs do, it might mean that less guys get eyeballs on them during fall playing high school football. Final segment of hour number 1 coming up in hour number 2. We'll continue with our National Signing Day coverage. Plus, we'll hear from Clemson University Athletic Director Graham Neff at length. But Dabo Swinney was also asked about Jahim Lawson. Of course, Jahim's brother Shaq was a part of the Clemson program. Jahim and Dabo Swinney's son Clay are good buddies and have spent plenty of time together. Here's Dabo Swinney giving some insight into his recruitment as well.
Jahim, I've watched Jahim from his whole life. He and Clay Jahim has spent many nights at my house. He and Clay have played ball together their entire life in about everything. So I've known him well, and I'm really, really proud of him. You know, I challenged him last year because I just felt like, he was good enough, but I told him he's going to have to earn it. And, there were some things that I wanted to see in him, and man, he did it. And I'm just really proud of him in his development. I mean, he was a dominant player this year. He dominated every game, and I saw every game but one. He dominated, and he dominated the playoffs. He goes and dominates the All-Star game. I mean, he's a really, really good prospect. Same thing though. He's got to get his butt in the weight room. He's twitchy. He's got some violent hands. He's a great effort guy. He's instinctive. He's much more refined than Shaq was, coming out. Obviously, just simply because of, he's had an example for a long time, and so he's got a chance. He's got a chance to be he'll be a true edge guy. So he's got a chance to be a good player if he'll continue to put the work in. But it's always fun when you've got those type of relationships. This is a relationship world. It's a relationship business, and that's an example of good relationships. But also, it speaks to how those that came before them and their experiences that they had, and the trust and the families and all those type of stuff as well.
Another name in this class we mentioned earlier, Miles Oliver, track star. Swinney was asked about, what having a guy with that kind of speed and what he does off of the gridiron could potentially add, and why that made him attractive.
Definitely. COVID, wasn't able to get to a lot of places. And then his track situation, he can fly. This morning I was kind of comparing him to a Cody Sensabaugh. I mean, he's a little thicker. Cody was very frail when he got here. This kid's put together more than Cody, but he's got a similar body. I think he's got similar upside, and he is fast, and an awesome kid. I hate to compare you, but you kind of get into that as a coach when you've done it for so long, and that's kind of how I evaluate him. I mean, I think he's exactly what we needed. We needed another guy at corner, and I think Mike did an awesome job. Just identifying, evaluating, and then sure enough, everybody kind of came in there, but he's going to be a good one for us.
The final guy we'll hear about here in hour number 1, Caden Story, who ironically is and has been the story for Clemson in this recruiting class with at least this February signing group, given the fact that he was once committed to Auburn, where Nick Eason was coaching, and then now commits and actually signs with Clemson. But here's Dabo Swinney sort of talking about what that movement, or how that movement kind of took place, I guess.
Well, D linemen are always a need, but with everybody coming back, I think he's a guy that maybe doesn't come in and start. He's probably not Brian Brzee the day he gets here, but he's got a chance to be a great player. I kind of see him as a little taller DJ Reader. He's that sneaky, athletic, going to be big man. He can play basketball. DJ is a great athlete and didn't really always get the credit for that. I mean, baseball, he could do it all. And this kid's the same way. His dad's the head coach. He's a football guy. His dad was a great player. His dad was a multi-sport player at Jacksonville State. Mom's an athlete. Brother is at Alabama. I mean, he's got another brother that played college ball as well. I mean, just a small town Friday night lights, football, place. And he's just got this mentality that you can't teach. It's just been instilled in him. And I mean, he is a big kid that can absolutely move. Y'all see him play basketball. He's got handles. I mean, he's got great feet. He's soft around the rim. I mean, he's just a really, really good big athlete. So to get a guy like him in this class is going to pay off for us big time.
Dabo Swinney talking about Caden's story. I don't know about you, but I like hearing Dabo Swinney talk about guys being soft around the rim and everything, knowing kind of the nuances of basketball, like hearing Coach Swinney, who's an avid basketball player, but, back guys down in the lane. He's got great footwork and technique in the post. Can shoot the ball with left hand, right hand, spin move, soft around the rim. Classic Dabo Swinney today. 803-450-0086. Again, coming up in hour number 2, we'll hear from Clemson University Athletic Director Graham Neff at length. The first time he's really spoken with the media. We'll give you some of that. And again, he takes over for Dan Radakovich, who has moved on to Miami. Some staff changes as well up in Tiger Town, finally noted. Also, Danny Poole, longtime Clemson trainer, will be not retiring just yet, but stepping out of the top position there at Clemson, as he has given some 40 years to the program. I believe 41 total years to the program at this point. 803-450-0086, text line and phone line. You can be a part of the program anytime, any place, anywhere. I know it was an hour loaded with conversations and comments from Dabo Swinney, but it is National Signing Day, but twice a year. And, of course, we always want to make sure that you get to hear all of that on the program. And, again, your Clemson Tigers, just some add-ons, some filler spots. But, again, I think Caden's story, as you heard Dabo Swinney kind of explaining about that young man, I think he is one that is certainly going to make a good haul for the Tigers down the road. We'll hit a quick break and come back with hour number 2 on the show that shakes the Southland as we hear from Graham Neff and more. Stay with us.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. National Signing Day. We had a lot of audio from Dabo Swinney earlier in the program. And again, we will have all of that archived over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com as well, plus our thoughts on Clemson's recruiting class and this show. I mean, we try to put as much of it into it as we can so that you can digest it all. Again, it is ClemsonSportsTalk.com. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086 as the Clemson Tigers continue to grow their recruiting class for the future. And again, Clemson did a good job finding players that Dabo Swinney and the staff really feel like fit the mold of what they want this program to be. Well, part of the molding of this program obviously comes from brand new athletic director Graham Neff and his opportunity to put his footprint and stamp on the program after Dan Radakovich left for the job at Miami. As I said earlier, it's the first time we've got a chance to hear from Graham. We've had him on this show in the past. He is absolutely a rising star. Listening to him today, I can only hope that this is his final stop, and not because of the things that he said necessarily, but because of the things that I know about him and what I feel he brings to the table. I think he's a perfect fit at Clemson. He is young. He could be around a long, long time. And I think he honestly really likes where he is, not just from the standpoint of the financial particulars of being the athletic director at Clemson, but I think what Clemson provides him for his wife and family as, those children, as his kids potentially grow up in the area, et cetera. So Graham Neff here from earlier today following Dabo Swinney during Clemson's National Signing Day event.
Thank you, Jeff. Newsy day here. Really a special moment for me right now, let alone certainly the transition, but just to be in front of you all. Golly, it'll be 9 years for Chris and I here at Clemson next month, in just about a month. And so count a lot of you all as colleagues, certainly friends, and for me to be wearing a different name tag here, certainly a professional dream of mine and goal, let alone being here at Clemson. And so now to be able to speak from a different dais, literally, with you all and how that looks to continue in a great cadence with you all, just really humbled and appreciative and excited in all those words. And it's really been a month since worked through the process, and President Clemens and the board was able to appoint this role. And so it has been there's been a lot going on in a number of different sets. So I plan to touch on some of those here, of course, and any discussions. But really, just as I've gotten settled over the past couple months or past couple weeks, there's definitely been the balance. I've gotten the question a lot of, gosh, you feel the stress, or you up at night, those type of things, versus the just the familiarity of Clemson. And so it's certainly one of those for a testament to Dan and the opportunity, certainly him bringing me here. And you all know, I know Dan back to my Atlanta and Georgia Tech days, and probably had a pretty good sense of how closely Dan and I worked together and were personally. And so there's definitely been those moments over the past month where it's been here, done that, and been very comfortable and familiar in settings, whether that's with President's Cabinet or Board of Trustees, formal meetings where we're hiring coaches, heavy decisions with staff and certainly our group of head coaches and staff and student athletes. So it's definitely been that balance of the newness of the role and literally moving down the hallway, so to speak. But then also just the comfort and familiarity of Clemson and Clemson that I know and have experienced. And again, the experience that Dan's afforded me with that.
That's Clemson University Athletic Director Graham Neff speaking earlier today to the media. He also talked about the position and being the athletic director at Clemson. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about not just what I think Graham Neff brings to the table, but what I think Graham sees from the opportunity that he's been presented. And here's what he had to say about how he looks at this role at Clemson.
One of the things that I try to hold close is certainly the reverence for this position. It's a big time job, and Clemson college athletics is a big time business, and Clemson is a big time brand within. And so I recognize maybe the weight, if that's a decent word, that comes with this role and the decisions that need to be made and the leadership that needs to be instilled, and how that fits at Clemson, and the need to keep Clemson. And I think back to the phrase of you stand on the shoulders of before you. And so certainly Dan and the 9 years that he and I have worked together, Terry Don before that, and his successful tenure here, and him hiring the guy that was just up here, of course, and what that's meant for his legacy, and Bobby Robinson. And so have certainly got to know and spent a lot of time with Bobby and Terry Don over the 9 years that I've been here. And so really cool the week of Christmas when the position was finalized, but before it was announced. So there was a couple of days of working through a process and some of the paperwork. I called Bobby and just want to have a conversation with him and just to make that connection point. He's always been so gracious with his time. He just lives downtown, of course, and he's always will probably walk by the office and always happy to pop in when needed. And I'll certainly lean on that. And same, I called Terry Don, didn't get him. I talked to Trish, but then really the next day when the announcement was made and the board approved, on my drive home, Terry Don actually lives in my neighborhood. And so I stopped by. But before I got home and hugged Kristen, I stopped by and saw Terry Don and just sat with him. And, he was just kind of out and about and sat down and welcomed me in as he always has done. And I hope always would continue to, or I'll lean on him. And so I just think that's really unique and uncommon about Clemson and maybe this role at Clemson, again, with some of that lineage and the resources that it provides and hopefully the relationships that I'll continue to have, and certainly Dan being still in the league and in the industry will be a great resource, and couldn't be more appreciative for his mentorship in my career, let alone for this opportunity at Clemson.
So when you hear that, I mean, really neat to think about the fact that Bobby Robinson's still right there in town. Obviously, Dan Radakovich still in the league. Terry Don Phillips still in Clemson and living in Graham Neff's neighborhood, allowing him a chance to lean in on some of those former Clemson athletic directors, and just a young guy who I think is a rising star. And I think maybe Clemson's program has put itself in the stratosphere that is so good that he will stay for a long time. I don't see a reason Graham Neff would leave on his own accord at this point. 803-450-0086. Neff also outlined some of the personnel changes throughout the programs as well.
And affirmations that Coach talked about from a football standpoint, continuing to invest in football is obviously a non-negotiable, and I'm excited to have those actions today from a personnel standpoint for football. Jackie Simpson-Keir, volleyball coach, the extension for her, and excited for her to have a full offseason. She was moved from assistant coach to the head coach role in a short offseason coming after COVID. So for her to have a full offseason and full seasons ahead, I'm excited for Jackie, and then obviously Mike Noonan, and that was about the easiest contract approval I think that I've ever been a part of with the board, coming off a natty, and just how Mike's gone about it and where he has the program. So excited certainly for our group of head coaches.
Clemson Athletic Director Graham Neff speaking there. One of the other things he brought up is something called Clemson Plus. And if you're thinking, Clemson what? Well, it sounds like this is going to be given to all Ipta subscribers, but I think of it like Disney Plus. I think of it like Apple TV Plus or whatever. I don't even know if that's a thing. But I think it's going to be a way for you to watch and stream all of the Clemson games. I'm not certain. This is something I've talked about for years. But here's sort of the lay of the land on Clemson Plus, according to Clemson University Athletic Director of Athletics, Graham Neff.
A lot of notes there. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. The last thing I'll just highlight, and I know we'll have more to come over the coming weeks and months, but Clemson Plus, the announcement of our over-the-top, our streaming service that'll launch on February 15th. We're really excited about what that product is and the business model with it and how that's included with Ipta membership. It's very different. A lot of these that you'll see within college athletics or others, right? It's subscription-based. It's a monthly charge. We've gone about the economics of it very differently in order to continue to promote and have it collected with Ipta and grow our Ipta base and membership. So a lot to talk on, I know, on a lot of those topics and others, but I don't know if that's a Sweeney-esque elongated opening statement or if anybody's got a stopwatch, but certainly wanted just to cover a little bit of look back in my first kind of moment here in front of you guys, and excited for it.
So it sounds to me like one of the goals of Clemson Plus is to increase the amount of donors that Clemson has. And I don't know if that means that in and of itself, you can only get Clemson Plus and be an Ipta member. I would think that would not be the case, but I don't know for certain. But it sounds like that's going to be it, like a subscription-based model for you to be able to tune in and watch, I guess, whatever Clemson sporting events you want. I'll be honest, he didn't say anything about this in that opening statement, and I don't believe he was asked about it later. I'll have to double-check that during the next break. But if Graham Neff were to tell me that I don't have to worry about finding Clemson basketball on a, quote, regional sports network, then you know what? I'll sign up. I'll take it, whatever it is. I mean, I don't think I could technically be a part of Ipta and interview recruits. Got to do it the right way, but whatever it takes to get my grubby little fingers on Clemson Plus so that I don't have to dig around trying to find a Clemson basketball game ever again, that would be nice. I would take that all day, every day. 803-450-0086. Again, Graham Neff speaking today, Clemson National Signing Day, or National Signing Day for everybody, technically. But Graham Neff, Clemson University Athletic Director, was asked about his role. And when he was hired, the Board of Trustees had such great things to say about his tenure, and there was no question, right? Like, I mean, I think I even tweeted when Dan Radakovich announced that he was taking the job at Miami, that's a no-brainer. It's Graham Neff. It's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no question in my mind. And so Graham Neff was asked about, who's the next Graham Neff? Like, who is the guy behind you that could eventually become the no-brainer? And here's what he had to say about that.
Great question. Thanks, Gene. Working on it. So we will. I'm excited for our staff. And listen, we have a senior staff of about 13. I think I've been here and been part of the recruitment or the hire, or certainly just a peer colleague for, I think, 10 of the 13. So I get really excited just to continue to join that room and table, albeit maybe in a little bit of a different chair. And so want to continue to grow our staff and continue to retrench a little bit, but then add horsepower to the team, so to speak. So do anticipate to add some staff, various levels, and yeah, there's been some moments where it certainly felt like, not that I'm doing two jobs, because again, we've certainly had some delegation, but there is an empty dark office with my old files in it that I do want to make sure that we're retooling in that regard. But given the staff we have, that's want to move expeditiously but not urgent, and so have some time here over the spring as we get into it and sit with staff and see what fits best internally and externally.
Graham Neff was also asked about the baseball program again a year ago, finishing under 500 and out of postseason play. Certainly a hot button issue for the Tiger faithful. Here's what Neff had to say about Monty Lee.
Obviously, we love baseball here. I grew up in Atlanta. In the 90s, baseball was my first love. Pro baseball, Atlanta Braves, of course. But I love baseball personally. It's in my bones, and the success for baseball here at Clemson is really important. I know Monty had some time with a lot of you all earlier in the week. Monty and I talk a lot. We live very closely to each other, and so just the ongoing dialogue that we've always had, just from the baseball program, and the roster and scholarships. We talk a lot about scholarships right here and how we can invest and provide those resources. So, it doesn't feel, quite honestly, like a big change of expectation setting or, hey, I need to really roll my sleeves up with baseball. Like Monty and I's relationship, I was certainly with Dan and Kyle Young as we recruited and hired Monty. But I know he's excited, obviously, with the guys and with a lot of the returners and their accolades and Caden and Will, if he gets healthy. So excited for them to get going. So the dialogue that's existed with Monty, he and I will continue. And certainly as we get into wanting to have a really good year, it'll be important.
So, again, that, of course, is Graham Neff talking about Monty Lee. He was also asked about Brad Brownell. We'll get to that shortly. But here's a little bit of the explanation behind that Clemson Plus package that we talked about earlier as well.
So, February, absolutely. Again, we'll have a lot more pub coming out with it. February 15th is the launch date, and that's strategic because that's the first 50% deadline for Ipta donations. And, again, how we're tying in the business model of Clemson Plus, we're not aware of anybody else in the country collegiately that's doing it this way. And there's been a couple that have been announced, so we're not maybe the first mover, but we're a very, very early mover in this tech, this platform. But we do know there's a lot of other schools that may be working on it as well. And a lot of them are, all of them that we're aware of are all subscription-based, $4.99 a month, $5.99 a month, and now you have an immediate revenue stream with it. The business model for us is more of the long ball. So Ipta membership, all current Ipta members, 29,000 of them, including Collegiate Club and Block C, will have on February 15th access to Clemson Plus. So it's an added benefit to your current membership, let alone obviously the compelling nature for us to incent and grow membership. And so there is not the transactional immediate revenue stream with it. We're playing the long ball from a Ipta membership lifetime of giving type concept. Let alone we'll be able to tastefully advertise within it with our in-house multimedia sales team and have a couple revenue streams with it. But really, it's just a product to be able to tell our story better. There's going to be great vault and archival games that we probably all put on. I know we do on Thanksgiving afternoon or things like that to watch the Ohio State Orange Bowl game in 13, those type of things. So there'll be great content that we have. Certainly, we've continued to staff up and add more content to it, let alone just the other content or assets with it, with archival games, podcasts, etc.
The final question to Graham Neff came about Brad Brownell, who, people have, I've probably fired him 3 times. I probably rehired him twice. It is a basketball program that is incredibly frustrating at times, but here's what the new athletic director at Clemson, Graham Neff, said about his relationship with Brad Brownell and that basketball program.
David, and I think you all may know certainly how close Brad and I work together professionally, and how we handle our staffing assignments, and we have sports supervisions. And so, basketball and football were really the two that I worked most closely with compared to all of our sports. And so I'm similar to the Monty conversation with baseball. I feel very in the weeds with Brad as a teammate and as our head coach, and certainly with the opportunities and successes of our basketball team. So, listen, we just flipped into February. Obviously, got a big game tonight. I know Brad is juiced and feels healthy coming off a little bit of the bye weekend, and I just get really excited for how he goes about it. Of course, and we all know how he leads the men in the locker room, culture, how he's engaged former players. Obviously, academics and compliance, particularly in men's basketball, right, is something that is a non-negotiable at Clemson as far as play by the rules, do it the right way. And when you have a head coach like Brad in a sport like college basketball, and what that means is just a huge comfort and a huge value, quite frankly. So all of those things off the field, Brad is off the court, Brad is spades, and get excited about where he has the roster and what's left for the season.
So a first opportunity to hear from Graham Neff, who we've already spoken with a couple of times about getting him on the show here shortly, and definitely want to make sure we do that for you in the very near future. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line. Again, you can be a part of this program anytime, any place, anywhere. We always appreciate every one of you hanging out with us and chatting it up, whether it be about Clemson recruiting, whether it be about Dabo Swinney's comments on NIL, whatever. Wherever you want to go with it, we'll let you take it there. I'll tell you one thing we will do for sure. When we get back, we'll take a quick look at the text line, see what you guys got going on. And one of the other things, too, did you see Clemson, the graphics that the Tigers put out for their social media when it came down to the players who committed to Clemson? It's hilarious to me because these photos are they did them in a style almost like the 1980s photo shoot where you would have a smaller picture of yourself and then one where your head's turned to the right or left. I can't really explain it. It's kind of like not a double exposure, but sort of a double exposure type photograph. Yeah, you've probably seen these. Go walk down the hall of one of your buddies' houses. Go over to like one of your buddies' parents' house and walk down the hall. There's bound to be a photo that looks like these ones that Clemson put together for these recruits. Sort of a throwback to the 1980s, if you will. 803-450-0086. The show that shakes the Southland continues to roll along here on a Wednesday afternoon, National Signing Day Wednesday afternoon, if you will. Stay with us. It is the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, and it has been a busy Wednesday, National Signing Day, the official National Signing Day. It doesn't feel like the official one anymore, though, does it? I mean, it's weird how this has shifted so quickly from being a day that we all used to look forward to a day where you can't believe that it's actually a signing day. And I know Clemson had several additions. We mentioned them all earlier. We'll get to that here momentarily, but also Caden Story, the former Auburn commit who decides that he's going to come to Clemson. And again, I think this is a big part of that was certainly Clemson being able to go in and get Nick Eason to join this Clemson Tiger staff. That absolutely helped on that front. And so a day that once felt like Christmas now feels maybe a little more like Halloween. Like it's kind of like a day where you do feel good about it, but maybe it's just a couple of hours because most of the hay will traditionally be in the barn with the December signing period. Our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com, again, a lot of stuff going on over there, and certainly hard to keep up with everything over the past couple of days simply because of the JOB that keeps me busy for so many hours in a day. And then by the time I get here and do the 2-hour show with you guys, it's 6:00. It's time for dinner and get ready to do it all over again. But make no mistake about it. Dabo Swinney and this coaching staff, you heard it from him earlier. I mean, they feel really good about the guys that they added today. And I think that a lot of people out there are probably sleeping a little bit on some of the additions simply because they're not bigger names. They're not higher, valued recruits. As a matter of fact, when we were putting together the story for today's article on National Signing Day, I mean, all of these guys except for Caden Story, up until TJ Dudley's decision, I mean, all of those guys were 3-star players. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have become, and this is just talking about the February signees, but when you have become not jaded, but accustomed, I think it's the right word. When you have become accustomed to landing top tier talent, and all of a sudden, maybe you don't have that same level of prospects, I guess would be the right word, landing at your front door, then you feel like, uh-oh, what's wrong? Where did we go wrong? Where did we make a mistake? What is the issue here? And, when you listen to Dabo Swinney, though, I think they see guys with huge upside. I think they see guys with great potential. And I think they also see players who value being the football player and being the student athlete. Football is not the end-all, be-all for these guys. And so that, I think, is the thing that we've all sort of had to embrace if you're going to buy into this recruiting class. It's that, hey, stars, yeah, they're great. It's awesome if you go out and get all the 5-star talent in the world. But you also want to have players who are committed to excellence, both on and off the field, players that are more about the team than about their individual accolades. And that can be the thing that is the catalyst to a run that could lead you to a national championship. It's the ability to plug holes and find players who, who knows how many snaps, you pick one of these guys individually that's a 3-star will play during their career. But I think there is a belief, and rightfully so, that if you get glue guys on and off the field, in the locker room, in the classroom, if you get players with the intestinal fortitude to do the extra workout, to push themselves for one extra rep. When you bring in guys that have that grunt work type mentality behind them, and they are packaged as maybe a 3-star recruit, they can deliver 5-star results just as well as a 5-star player, maybe better than a 5-star player who doesn't and isn't willing to put in that elite type effort. I mean, there is no question that Clemson can go out and get pretty much anybody they want. And so what you have to do until the results start to falter, and 10-3 this past season is not results starting to falter. But if you go out and get the best players that you believe fit your system, and you continue to win at a high level, then you can't be overly critical during the early signing period or during National Signing Day when Clemson brings in some 3-star guys that maybe you didn't have on your recruiting board. I mean, that's the thing. I am far from a recruiting expert when it comes down to this business because it is a huge business. But what I do know is that you don't have to have a 5-star billing to deliver 5-star results. It certainly helps, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think the sooner some people out there who are just so driven emotionally by the commitments of 18-year-olds and how it, I can't believe he went to Georgia. Can't believe he went to Alabama. Like if the decision's made by a kid that has done nothing collegiately yet, throws off your day, maybe you need to find something else to be concerned about during your day. Because these young men that did come to Clemson, I think it was KJ Henry tweeted this out. They want Clemson wants guys that want to be at Clemson. And you get that, you can create talent and success. 803-450-0086 with a quick break. We'll come back with more of the show that shakes the Southland on a nice Wednesday afternoon. Clemson Sports Talk Law and Swan, TJ Dudley out of Montgomery Catholic Prep School in Montgomery, Alabama, picks Clemson. He is headed to Tiger Town. That happened just a little bit ago, a little later than expected. That's why we had to hold it here on the program for you. But Dudley does commit to Clemson. We put out the tweet just after it happened. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Clemson Sports. About 5:08-ish, I guess, somewhere in there. It was supposed to happen around 4:30, but pushed back a little bit by other guys making announcements. The only thing I have to say negative about it at all is I really can't stand these things when they're done in gyms. It can be so hard to understand what some of these guys are saying or doing. And, of course, in the midst of a segment when that went down, kind of tough. But he did commit to your Clemson Tigers. So a third linebacker commit in this class and another 4-star commitment today as TJ Dudley announces his commitment and will be sending his signature to Tiger Town. 803-450-0086. Again, Caden Story, TJ Dudley, the 2 4-star prospects today, littered by a group of 3-star prospects who could fill gaps and be very talented players given some of their pedigrees. We'll see how it all shakes out. But for the Clemson defense, adding a nice defensive tackle prospect in Story, adding a thumper-type linebacker, a guy that can cover in space as well. I think in Dudley, that's a big positive. And both of those guys will have plenty of time to mature, in my estimation. He was certainly one of the top uncommitted prospects today, and he is going to be a Clemson Tiger. So a big pickup. He had originally committed to Oregon, decommitted from the Ducks after Mario Cristobal left from Miami. He is now going to be a Clemson Tiger after making his announcement just a little bit ago. So exciting. Dudley can certainly move around at linebacker, has the ability to play safety if necessary, but a hard-hitting guy. That's why I call him a thumper. Not necessarily because he's a downhill style, just run stopper, but more so he's a guy that's not, he's not going to shy away from putting the boomstick on you. And so I like to pick up for Clemson. Another 4-star that'll help this recruiting class for sure. And over the long haul, I think for this young man to have some time to develop in the system is going to be a big positive. So Clemson, again today with a last minute commitment. Text came to us as well. I do need to get to this from Linda right after it happened. Linda hit us up and said, "We got TJ Dudley." Indeed, a good pickup. Great pickup for the Clemson Tigers. So I know everybody will be excited about that, and what a way for Clemson and Dabo Swinney to kind of close down the day. Now, I mentioned, or at least Graham Neff mentioned, Clemson Plus, the streaming service set to begin on February the 15th. Here's what the official release has to say. Did some diggings into this, and here's what we've got for you. Clemson Athletics and Ipta are set to launch a Clemson Plus, a streaming service dedicated to showing what it's like to be a Tiger. Clemson Plus showcases the best video content and will be available on all major streaming platforms via the Clemson Tigers app and web browsing beginning February 15th. The subscription will be included as an exclusive benefit to more than 26,000 Ipta and Collegiate Club members. They go on to say that All Access gets you inside to follow the programs during their season and hear from the coaches and student athletes, see the work that goes on as we prepare to play the best in the nation. Beyond the Lines, that's the teams behind the teams. Go inside Clemson support areas and team to learn more about the people dedicated to enriching the student-athlete experience off the field and maximizing performance on it. The Vault. Some of the biggest and most memorable game recaps, vlogs, and moments are available in the Vault. From no-hitters to natties, relive the moments that truly shine. And guess what that means? You're going to get to see Swanee North Floor in some of those big moments from yesteryear during the Rick Barnes era of Clemson Tiger basketball. They're also going to be having some exclusive podcast. That's interesting. It says, listen to some of Clemson's longest tenured, chop it up and tell stories from inside, get behind-the-scenes interviews and takes on some of the people, places, and things that makes Clemson special. New content will be added to Clemson Plus regularly upon launch. The platform, again, Clemson Plus. Neff said, we are grateful for our digital partner, WMT, who continues to build innovative solutions to better connect with donors, alumni, student athletes, and prospective student athletes. So there we go. Clemson Plus. Who knows how it'll work? Who knows how many of you are interested in watching all of that stuff? I mean, like the All Access, maybe that would be cool. The Vault would be fun, but a lot of those games are already online. Beyond the Lines, maybe. Exclusive podcast. I mean, if the host extraordinaire isn't the host, then I don't know what we're doing. I mean, hey, Graham, hit me up. If you need somebody to do a little hosting, I'm available. I got a little time. We can pull it off. 803-450-0086 text line and phone line. Be a part of the show anytime, any place, anywhere. And again, always appreciate you guys being a part of the program. And Jimbo Fisher, not a happy camper, as you can imagine. He's fired up about the fact that everybody's saying that A&M is buying recruits with NIL money. Well, I mean, look at your recruiting class. It's a little bit suspicious. I mean, I get it. Sure, you're doing a great job, Jimbo. You've gone out and done a fantastic job, and I'm sure all those guys just lined up to come to A&M for the fun of it because they believe in the program. I think there's definitely some questionable tactics that have gone on out in College Station and at many places as it pertains to how they handle the NIL. We heard Dabo Swinney talk about the NIL and how he sees it being used at Clemson. When we get back, we'll hear what Jimbo Fisher had to say on that front right after this. Stay with us.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Wednesday afternoon, a National Signing Day Wednesday. Jimbo Fisher, head coach at Texas A&M. We mentioned this before the break. He is not happy about the accusations or even the thought process that Texas A&M might be buying recruits with NIL money. Here's what Fisher had to say about the situation.
Here's what I'm going to say, and this is point blank. This is point blank because here's my problem. There is no $30 million fund. There is no $5 million. There is no 10. This is garbage, okay? And it pisses me off that people, and here it comes from a site called Bro Bible, by a guy named Sliced Bread. Then everybody runs with it. So it's written on the internet as gospel. How irresponsible is that? I'm going to tell you, there's some very reputable writers in college football and sports that wrote it and have said it and have done things. That's unbelievable to me. When I first heard it, I laughed. I said, oh, yeah, what a clown. I mean, I didn't even think anything of it because I don't have social media. And they kept building it, and lately I've heard more about it. To me, it's insulting to the players that we recruited that's why they would come here. You ever been to a game here? You ever come to school here and see the education? You ever talk about the 12th man, the Aggie Network when you're done? There ain't a better university in this country. And it's insulting to what you say. And all these, and we got writers who have said it and done it off Sliced Bread. A guy named Slice who made it up. Love to see who Sliced Bread is and put it out there with Sliced Bread. Let me find out where it comes from. And then to have coaches in our league and across this league to say it, clown acts. All right? Irresponsible as hell. Multiple coaches in our league. And the guy's griping about NIL, griping about transfer portal, using it the most and bragging about it the most. That's the ironic part. You want character? I'll take it with any of y'all. It's a joke. It does piss me off. The other thing, when you look at vice president, I get another one. Vice president of Notre Dame. Supposed to be a reputable university, right? That's a heck of a person leading a reputable university. I'd be real proud if I hired that guy. Read it off Sliced Bread. But they say it because it's written on the internet. We worry about the kids and social media and internet. How about grown-ups? How about the guys that are supposed to be setting an example? How about writers who are supposed to be writing the right thing? How about coaches who are supposed to be doing the right thing? And I'll tell you what, I know how some of those guys recruit too. Don't dig into that. I know the history, I know the tradition, I know things. Trust me, you don't want to go down that avenue. It's ridiculous, and it's irresponsible, and it's unbelievable. I ain't just talking about one. Multiple people got NIL issues. It's funny, when Nick Saban said his quarterback got an $800,000 deal, it was wonderful. Now it ain't wonderful no more, huh? But ours, we ain't got that. Ours are on record what comes up. We ain't doing all them big deals. Ain't none on our place that we know of. That's funny when you do it. And then we gripe about the transfer portal, then you guys take more than everybody. What's about that? And what goes on? The hypocrisy is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and it's insulting to our staff, how hard we worked, to how we do things, and it's insulting to Texas A&M because there ain't a better place to go to school and play ball. If you don't like it, we're coming on. Get used to it. All right? We ain't going nowhere. It's an absolute joke.
Jimbo Fisher hot and bothered on a national signing day. And again, I look, to me, if these blogs and conversations are true, then yeah, it's one thing. But Jimbo Fisher himself has talked about how the NIL deal has changed the game. And it has. And I think for him, in a very positive way because of that Aggie network he's talking about. And I don't know whether there's $30 million or not. I don't believe that. But I do believe that Jimbo Fisher is the type of guy that would be more than willing to harvest, so to speak, dollars for these players by saying, look, man, you come here, like doing the exact opposite of what NIL is supposed to do. Like, I have no evidence he's done it, but I would believe that he would do this. I would absolutely believe that he would say, hey, you come here, you'll be on the billboard. You can make this amount of money. That's not the nature of the way it's supposed to be set up. It's supposed to be set up, hey, you come here, and yeah, if there's a benefit down the line for you, that's all well and good, but we're not going to lay out the package for you. Here's what it's going to look like if you come to Clemson or A&M or wherever. And I think just the results of where they ended up this year in terms of recruiting have impacted the thought process that people have about how Jimbo Fisher's found success at Texas A&M, including the fact that, yeah, I know they went out and beat Alabama this past year, and that was a big win for the Aggies. And they're certainly a program that I've liked in the past. I mean, I've always said, like, when Clemson, when I was growing up, I rooted for Texas A&M. But here's their record under Jimbo Fisher: 9-4 in 2018, 8-5 in 2019, 9-1 in 2020, 8-4 last year. And then they're blowing the doors off of recruiting. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I don't think that it's beyond the realm of possibility knowing the nature of Texas A&M fans, that there would be a willingness to do some quote unquote unscrupulous things, if you will, to convince guys to come play there, including prepackaged NIL plans. Would not surprise me in the least. I don't have any facts of it, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. 803-450-0086. That is our number. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on National Signing Day. Again, Clemson with 2 huge pickups today. Caden Story, and then later TJ Dudley joining the fold as well. We'll be back tomorrow for more recap right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers!